This movie was selected by Patreon supporter Eric Christensen. If you would like the chance to choose a future movie for this channel, or if you simply wish to support my work, you can check me out on patreon.com. Cool. So today we're going to be watching The Rules of the Game, or La Règle du Jeu. This is a film by Jean Renoir, famous French director. I don't know why I said French, like I wasn't sure if he was French. He's definitely French. The Rules of the Game has topped many lists as being one of the greatest films of all time, and at some points in history, perhaps remarked upon as the greatest film of all time. That's a lot. That's a big task to try and live up to, and obviously, I'm not going to be able to cover all the components that make it the greatest film of all time. I'm sure if I was watching, or if you or I were watching Citizen Kane for the first time, the most substantive opinion we'd be able to give is whether or not I liked it. And I wouldn't really have too much of a clue of telling you what's great about it, much less what makes it the greatest film of all time. But yeah, I guess I'll try my best with this one. I'm really interested, honestly. I've actually had a copy of The Rules of the Game in my DVD collection since high school, and I just never got around to watching it because I was in high school, and as ill-equipped as I am now to handle and understand Renoir, imagine that in high school. But yeah, we finally got into it. So let's watch The Rules of the Game. And before we get started, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. The great thing about the greatest films of all time from the 40s and before, they're like less than 2 hours. This movie's 114 minutes. Modern times could never. Well, modern times is a Charles Chaplin film. Contemporary times could never. Ooh, Chanel did the costuming. That's good and bad. You can certainly tell that Renoir's mind is on the Second World War during this time. Very clearly evidenced by The Grand Illusion. Isn't that Jean Renoir himself? I didn't know he was starring in this movie. Who's he playing? Octave? Je suis très malheureux. Ooh, don't say that over the air. Very much an Arletty type. Ooh, I like the mirrors. I mean, Wells is obviously a fan of Renoir.
Would grab 4 or 5 films to save on the ark for posterity. What would you grab?
2 films, Grande Illusion of Renoir.
Yeah?
And something else.
How many years is this before Citizen Kane? 2 years? I don't know if that would really figure into the production design of Citizen Kane, but something to remark on.
C'est une petite négresse romantique. Le mécanisme est intact.
Isn't that charming? In a beginning of the 20th century kind of way. This is a cool little shot. They gotta get an animal wrangler on there to get a rabbit. Beautiful little tracking shot. What a brilliant use of the open air of the French landscape. And you can kind of see little things that like would appeal to Wes Anderson, for example, that it's not strictly a horizontal tracking shot, that even within that, the character within the frame darts from background to foreground.
C'est pour nourrir ma vieille mère.
Le marquis, il n'a pas de vieille mère.
Moi, j'en ai pas de vieille mère. Moi, j'en ai pas de vieille mère.
It's not always to my taste, but I do like. I'm always surprised to see how much humor there is in a Renoir film. Oh, I see. Perhaps we're getting a little bit of upstairs, downstairs setup. A little retreat to the country. A little bit of Gosford Park.
Très gentil à vous d'être venu.
C'est vous qui êtes très aimable. Je ne vous ai pas vu depuis, c'est magnifique. Je suis ravi de vous voir. Et très fier de vous tirer la main.
Oh, il faut que je vous embrasse. Je suis trop contente de vous voir ici. Et moi, André, du permis, je t'embrasse aussi. Viens, et moi.
moi. Il me semble que j'y crois.
Droit du rêve.
Ça se passe en famille.
Enfin, ont-ils ou n'ont-ils pas? Dommage, un garçon si distingué.
Mes chers amis,
I love this sudden, like, all of these close-ups. It's a really weird shift in tone.
avec André Jurieux.
It gives a really kind of like,
Pendant ces préparatifs,
for me at least, it brings a little bit of a uncanny feeling to this. Like, all of a sudden it's terribly, terribly intimate. You're made aware of how many people are around, how many people are listening to you, how many people are looking at you. Even though it's in this grand estate,
J'en suis très fière.
you've suddenly entered into a den of thieves. Everybody's coming in with different different expectations, different plans, different means of subterfuge.
Oui, mon ami. Ah, il faut que j'aille prendre mon service.
Eh ben, tenez, mettez-vous là.
I do love how active Renoir's camera is. It's always tracking along, tracing along, finding different subjects to concentrate on. Smart little transition, contrasting the lower rungs clockwork to the upper.
Une torche! Vous avez cherché à coup autrefois?
Oui, c'est dans le monteur. Ne fais pas trop de bruit. Non, je demande 5 ans.
Vous êtes une grande musicienne!
Amusez-vous bien.
Je n'ai plus besoin de vous.
Vous pouvez disposer. Ma petite chambre.
Like, I really liked that that swivel, that pan, just revealing the other side. It's giving totally different dimensions, different looks to the shot.
Ma chère Christine, je vous suis très reconnaissant.
Pourquoi donc?
De ne pas m'avoir rendu ridicule. André Jurieux aussi était très bien.
I'm actually wondering where this narrative will go. I'm wondering if it's actually going to be something along the lines of like Age of Innocence, the kind of like rules of etiquette and decorum within society, and displaying that within different rungs of society, that all these different levels actually still reinforce certain rules and certain edifices, even if these two characters, Christine and Andre, love each other, even if everybody else has like a marriage or a relationship or an affair born of convenience, born of carnality, born of passion or whatever, if their love is true but betrays the rules of their set society, then they're not allowed to embrace it.
Giette la gauche! Pointard!
It's so expansive. Look at the size of that terrain. Genevieve's kind of got something. I love how, like, on the edges it's just bleeding out of focus. It's a nice look for the era. This may just be like confirmation bias on my part, but there are a lot of foreign movies that I watch that happen to also feature violence against animals, and part of it is just accepting it as the reality of different cultures, but like a lot of them. I think the first time I really noticed it was watching Maîtresse, which features the killing of a horse for horse meat, and that was just like not something I'd seen in a movie before. You could see them immediately go into like rigor mortis. Not immediately go into rigor mortis, but you could see them immediately tense up after being shot. Gosh, just see all of that happen.
Au troisième track, je n'ai pas eu de chance. Et pourtant, j'étais bien placé.
Ça arrive, ça, mon cher.
I'm gonna pause for a second. I just want to, I don't know, I want to get this out of the way to just state my position, and it's not determinate. Obviously, Renoir is considered one of the greatest artists in filmmaking history, and La Règle de Jeu is considered one of, if not the greatest film in film history. But just in terms of my particular tastes, something that I kind of register with Renoir that just doesn't wholly align with what I want out of films. Sometimes I think he takes a bit of a he takes a bit of a languid approach to storytelling, and I think it's really interesting, but it's not as emotionally engaging as I sometimes want. The way that his stories progress is like showing like little snippets, little interactions, and they almost don't have any cumulative force to them. It's just like one thing happens and another thing happens and another thing happens, and it's a little bit pastiche, and it culminates at the end with a sudden huge revelation, revelation of humanity, or a revelation of monstrosity. I think those two are clearly evidenced in La Chienne and La Bête Humaine for the monstrosity, and La Grande Illusion for the humanity. And I think it's wonderful. He has like wonderful climaxes to his films, conclusions to his films that really they're a real gut punch. They make you truly understand the thesis of the film and the heart of the film. But the way that he leads up to that, he takes his foot off the pedal so much that it almost feels like it's just a hangout movie until you get to the end. I mean, this is something that I experience with like Robert Altman films as well. I think Robert Altman films fall into this pace a lot as well. But yeah, so like something that I just want to state plainly from my experience, even for the Renoir films that I've loved, like I absolutely love La Chienne, but I loved it as a contrast to Scarlet Street. And I got like the emotional payoff of Scarlet Street. I got that human story communicated to me by Lang, and it made me appreciate the technical elements of La Chienne that much more, because I had already gotten a satisfactory emotional story in another adaptation. And so like I really appreciate the technical aspects of Renoir, but on the storytelling level, his way of communicating isn't always what I feel, which is, I don't know, it's fine. But I also it's also interesting because like some of the filmmakers that he's influenced, I've loved their work and their interpretation and the way they interpret this narrative style as well. Like, because like Wes Anderson does the same thing, and I can understand people hating Wes Anderson's movies for being kind of like freewheeling and lackadaisical in some ways, but I guess I understand that society or that culture a bit better, and so I can appreciate him taking his foot off the pedal and just like building the world and building little intricacies and little delicacies, and then bringing the gut punch at the end. It's interesting. I mean, it's up to your taste, but you could see ways that this format can work for you or work against you, depending.
Je vous prie de me répondre.
Non, je ne vous aime plus. J'ai beaucoup de sympathie pour vous.
Mais je vous ennuie.
I mean, you could really see, I personally think you could see the through line from Renoir to Altman. They both have a very lazy way of approaching storytelling, and it could be really engaging if you love the characters or know the characters. This is just from an era, I think, where I don't quite understand the culture and the people as well.
Je vais partir.
Je crois que ça vaudra mieux, Geneviève.
Like, this is certainly a Wes Anderson interaction. A beautiful woman pining after a mostly unremarkable man. In this era, in Renoir's era, an unremarkable man made remarkable by his status, by his title and his lineage. And in Wes Anderson films, an otherwise unremarkable man made remarkable by his brilliance or his obsession, his fascinations, his profession. She sees them embracing, yeah, at the moment that they're parting.
J'ai jamais essayé de contrarier vos relations avec mon mari. Vous savez, comme tout le monde, entre femmes, on se doit bien de temps en temps un petit coup d'épaule. Si vous êtes là, mon mari s'occupe de vous, s'occupe un peu moins de moi.
So I can do whatever suits me. So like, this is another example of a scene that I really admire, but I don't really have emotional resonance with. But this is a really cool scene, the interaction between these two women, that you'd think that there would be a fight and tension between them, but you actually see collusion between them, and there's kind of a little delight in the upheaval of the normal tropes, the expectations that the audience has. You'd expect that Christine, the wronged wife, would be the one who's very emotional, and in fact she's the one who is the most cunning in this scene. And Geneviève, the woman who's having the affair, she's the one who's actually ruled by emotion, and even more so, she's ruled by honor and shame, and the shame that she doesn't want to bring to Christine and doesn't want to bring upon herself. And the two find mutual benefit in having Geneviève stay. I think that's a really well constructed scene. I'm not like emotionally over the moon by it, but it's another example of Renoir kind of throwing upheaval into audiences' expectations, scenes playing out not as you'd expect them. À la folie. He has to know that she's married to, does he? Would he? He has to know that she's married to, Schumacher, right? Is this his, revenge on Schumacher? Or is he just a horny idiot?
Je vous en prie, mon ami, ne troublez pas notre service. La journée est suffisamment chargée comme ça.
Terrible. I mean, he shouldn't be so controlling of his wife, but his wife also shouldn't be stepping out. But also, the use of the wife is abusing the kind of service hierarchy in order to unjustly punish her husband. But also, her husband utilizes his social position, his position as a man, to try and control his wife. Different systems at battle with each other. This is one of those scenes, as in La Grande Illusion, the vaudeville scene in La Grande Illusion. It's important. It's a really important scene because it signifies it shows the retaking of Fort Fauquinot or whatever it is by the French, but it also doesn't need the entire scene of performance. But that's just one of those things. That's one of those things that Renoir likes showing. He likes showing the performance because this is a point of interest for him, and it's not something that necessarily interests me. The thing that interests me is the interactions within the scope of a performance. What a communal activity like a vaudeville show will do in bringing different people together and how they interact with each other. But the show itself isn't necessarily my interest. Renoir likes showing off technology. Ooh, that is really pretty though. It's like the Cassandra cat. Hopefully I have that video out by now. See, this is what I love. You see a horror show, you see a little grotesque, and it shows how it enjoys people. The contrast of this really horrifying. Oh, this is so beautiful. This is so well constructed with the lights, but God, it's so well shot. But how this grotesque horror actually reveals people's primal instincts, and it drives them to their carnal appetites. Look at this. This is the most beautiful shot. Oh my God. One of the most spectacular shots I've seen on this channel. All the different rooms, all the different affairs. Renoir's an incredible technician. I don't always understand the emotional component of his films, but the technical are astounding. And I never would have expected Robert to be the scorned one, the one who's manipulated, the man who's sleeping with two women, and he's the one who's aggrieved in this circumstance.
Les femmes, elles sont bien gentilles, je les aime bien. Je les aime trop même. Mais c'est à cause des ennuis.
This is one of those scenes that would give me such a sweat as an actor. Like, Renoir walks up to you and he's like, we're going to play out this entire scene, this entire line of conversation that you have. You have to do it well, setting up somebody else's bow tie. Just like anxiety through the roof. And he's smoking a cigarette the entire time, too.
Ma chère, où est passé Monsieur de Saint-Aubin?
Mais je ne sais pas, monsieur Jurieux. Je vous assure que je ne...
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a drawing room comedy. But I am pleased.
Aucun ordre à donner à Christine. Bon, ben cette explication, c'est à vous que je vais la demander. Je vais vous tirer les oreilles, monsieur.
Essayez donc, monsieur.
Guignol! I don't even know who this character is, Saint Alvin. I don't know where else he's been in this movie. I'm not good with ensemble films, especially with white people. I can't tell any of these people apart.
Pourquoi n'êtes-vous pas venu me chercher au Bourget?
Parce que je vous aime. Entrez.
Depuis des mois, je pense tellement à ce que je ferais si j'avais le bonheur d'être avec vous.
I didn't even realize that was Andre. I thought that was Robert again.
Vous n'avez pas peur, Christine?
No! No! Oh, wow. Again, Renoir's fascination with curios. She's always eating an apple around him as well. I don't know, maybe it's a, you know, Bible reference.
Tu fais là?
J'avais faim, je suis venue chercher une pomme.
Trop bête d'avoir du bien et de travailler chez les autres quand on peut être le maître chez soi.
Oh oui, puis ça doit être si beau l'Alsace. Avec les grands sapins et puis la neige.
I like how she's purposely speaking a little bit louder.
La chaînette. Va me voler ma femme. Non, la chaînette. Accordez-moi 5 minutes d'entretien. Voilà, je prie.
C'est une grande fête.
Il m'a proposé d'aller passer un mois avec sa mère à la campagne pour qu'il puisse régler la situation avec la chaîne.
Tu t'attendais à quoi?
Ah, ce qu'il me prenne dans ses bras. Qu'il m'embrasse, qu'il m'emmène.
He's so boring. Andre is so boring. Let this be a lesson. Propriety is for suckers. Oh.
C'est une balle de revolver, ça vous étonne. Oui.
Who's that drink for? Is he just pretending to be a butler? I love that the judge, or I love that the larger woman, I forgot her name, is still playing cards. Probably playing Below again. I think she mentioned that earlier in the dialogue.
2 seasons earlier, my expectations have been subverted.
Like earlier in this evening. It just gets crazier and crazier. It definitely, yeah, it is like a Wes Anderson film, but I think this is like, there's definitely the DNA in this for a couple of earlier films of, I'll admit, this is funny as hell. I am seeing like the kind of Wes Anderson movie that is hidden inside of this. So contrary to my previous point, this has ramped up in the story, in the plot, this one crazy night.
Écoute, faut le comprendre. Son cas, eh bien, c'est le drame de tous les héros modernes. Ces gens-là, quand ils sont en l'air, ils sont formidables.
On the ground, they're helpless, yeah. This is a sentiment I'm sure Wes Anderson appreciated. I'm sure Ingmar Bergman appreciated it. I'm sure Federico Fellini appreciated it.
Vous m'en voulez pas? Oh, mais non. C'est entre nous si les hommes sont fous?
Alors, vous me gardez?
Oh, bien sûr.
There's some beautiful female relationships in this film,
Mais madame, mais il faut rentrer, voyons.
and
On a
some
arrêté de se promener comme ça la nuit dehors. En
hilarious
Lisette,
male-female interactions.
il faut marcher un peu.
Je vais vous chercher votre manteau.
Non, j'ai trop chaud.
Ah, mais trop chaud, c'est parce que vous n'êtes pas bien. Tenez, mettez mon capuchon.
Il faut répondre qu'elle était avec madame. Avec madame. Oh, c'est pas avec toi qu'elle est mariée, ben c'est avec madame. Je vais alors reprendre. Ah là là, quelle belle nuit, hein. Tiens, regarde la lune, hein.
C'est pas froid.
Non, non, j'ai pas froid. Et toi, t'as froid? Oui. Le truc de plus chaud.
This movie has beautiful depictions of friendships. That wasn't really what I was expecting out of this film. I was expecting something a little bit more in the lines of romances. And there are romances, obviously, in this film. But the romances themselves are presented, I think, intentionally a little bit flat. And the human relationships outside of the bounds of that primary relationship, that relationship of romance, are actually a lot more in depth. The ways that friends relate to each other, the way that rivals relate to each other, it's far more varied and colorful depiction of human connection.
Toi, par exemple, tu es un type très bien.
Je suis un raté.
Tu sais, c'est toi que j'aime.
After all this time, really?
Non.
As a sister, as a daughter, as a lover. They think that I understand. They think that Christina's Lisette because she put on her cape. Of course. I didn't even think of that. This is a really beautiful format, or this is a really beautiful feeling that Renoir conjured, that other filmmakers took derived influence from. The ability to mix the fantastical, the farcical with the tragic. That a setup to a actually really, really tragic ending to this film is a normal, comedic trope, a normal farcical trope, the mistaken lovers, the mistaken identity.
Je crois qu'il y a un train à la mode Beuvron à 3h du matin. On va essayer de la voir. Alors j'en viens tout de suite avec ton manteau.
I really understand this better as an influence on Anderson, an influence on Fellini, on early Bergman. It's a very, very special kind of feeling that you can experience so rarely in film. There are so few filmmakers that are really adept at communicating the sensation of the tragic born of the farcical, or farce born out of tragedy. It's a great ending. You see it coming from a mile away.
Vous avez tort, Monsieur Octave.
The change in tone is so abrupt, but it's so earned.
Mais moi, je vous dis ce que je pense, et ben vous faites une bêtise. Madame sera pas heureuse avec vous.
Does he look in the mirror? Does he see something different?
Vous m'emmenez avec vous?
Où est Christine? Elle t'attend. Elle t'attend dans la petite serre. De l'autre côté du pont. Faut que tu lui partes ça. Grouille-toi dans la petite serre, de l'autre côté du pont. Faut pas que tu prennes froid. Oh, je te remercie.
They're gonna kill Robert as well? He had a change of mind. He realized he couldn't give anything to her. No, wait, that was Andre. I can't tell Robert and Andre apart. I'm sorry, that's really my bad.
Ah, je souffre, mon Dieu. J'ai horreur de ça.
I mean, I guess that is a Chekhov's gun. They had a whole hunting party, and now they'll complete the hunt. This is also previously set up with the conversation that Robert had with Andre, that you're young, you're heroic, but what if there's an accident? Like one of Robert's mechanical pieces, it's actually really finely tuned, that there's actually a lot of setups going into this, that Schumacher was dismissed because of his firearms, his adamant use of a weapon. The setup that Andre is like flirts with danger with being the pilot, but also that he's useless on the ground.
Tu vas, toi?
Dans les bois.
And the fact that Schumacher's the one that shoots him, that the end of this revelry is a German or an Austrian, it kind of signals the end of Renoir's own relationship with France, with the incoming violence of Germany.
Oh, je ne peux plus, je ne peux plus. Allons, du courage, mademoiselle Jackie. Voyons, une jeune fille comme vous, bien élevée, qui a de l'éducation, mais il faut que ça ait du courage.
And Andre never noticed Jackie.
Messieurs, il s'agit d'un déplorable accident et rien de plus. Mon garde Schumacher a cru voir un braconnier et il a tiré comme c'était son droit.
That's set up all the way back. Oh my god.
Cette erreur. Maintenant, mes chers amis, il fait froid, vous risquez de prendre mal. Je me permets de vous conseiller de rentrer.
Nouvelle définition du mot accident. Non, cela chez ne manque pas de classe.
And again, we begin the rumor mill that they think that it was actually Robert who had Andre killed so that he could keep his wife. Interesting. Really, really interesting. I really wasn't expecting to be as taken with the ending of this movie as I thought, as I ended up being. And I said this even previously, that the format of a Renoir piece is that it'll ramp up at the end. It'll be all of it happening at the end, and it'll hit you with an emotional gut punch that you weren't expecting. And it ended up happening. I think this laid to rest a couple of my like fears that I evinced on earlier on. My concerns with Renoir, that I kind of had a more intellectual appreciation for his work rather than complete commitment. I think part of that is just like a difficulty in me parsing the tone, the specific tone and the specific kind of characters that he draws. And this viewing helped inoculate me to that. I think, to be honest, there are aspects of Renoir that are in this instance, like too complicated for me for a first watch, or culturally just too different from what I know and what I understand for me to really appreciate. And I think this has kind of like cleared it up a bit. I think for a first watch, this was too complicated for me. And now that I've been through it, I kind of understand it and appreciate it more. And I actually think that this is definitely an example of something that for me would be more satisfying on a subsequent viewings, when I'm not quite so like allergic to all the characters and anxious to try and understand all of the relationships and all the different permutations, the different couplings that are presented in the film. It evens out towards the end. You kind of understand where everybody is in relation to each other. But I was just fumbling around so much with Geneviève and Robert and Christine and Lisette and Marceau and Edouard. It was just too much to juggle with, but I really kind of understand the characters better and the tone better and the pace better. So I think this viewing experience was really helpful for inoculating me to Renoir's specific style or specific approach. Not that I think that his other films will exactly follow this format, but this was a really instructive viewing. Oh, Jean Gabin was originally supposed to be in this. I wonder as who. I don't really picture him as Andre. But yeah, this kind of like something that really helped me kind of like frame the experience of watching this was like comparing it to some of the films that it influenced. Like the tone of this is certainly something that's evident in Wes Anderson films. Like this is really, they're tonally, especially the end sequence, the party sequence. You could really see the effects of that on the Royal Tenenbaums and some of his subsequent like crazy chase endings in his movies, like Grand Budapest and Asteroid City. But something that like seemed really oddly familiar in watching this is like this is that summer night reverie kind of movie. This is Smiles of a Summer Night by Bergman. This is reminded me a lot of Variety Lights by Fellini. In some ways, you could say La Dolce Vita as well, but I think there's slight tonal differences in that with regards to that. But like the discord of lovers, the interaction of between the rich and the betrothed, let's say, something I kind of really appreciate in this depiction. I didn't really think about it while I was watching it, but kind of like in reflection and reading up a little bit about his feelings on the hunt scene. The hunt scene, obviously, also there's stylistic similarities to the burning scene in Roma. But something that I really liked is that you see the entire hunt and you expect the next scene, the next sequence to be kind of like a great feast scene, a scene of them in the dining hall consuming the prizes of their hunt, but they're not shown eating the animals at all. It was just a lark for them. Apparently, Renoir wanted to draw parallels in that scene to the encroaching war front that would take over Europe, kind of a scene of senseless violence, and watching the extreme, intense mechanism, the corporeality of the murdering of these animals, of the dispatchment of these animals. I can really see the Marriage of Figaro influence on this. That's hilarious. And apparently this caused a huge uproar in the in France at the time of its release, because apparently French citizenry saw themselves too much in the picture and did not like it. I don't know. I'm not a French person, and I'm not existing in 1939, so I can't tell you with any certainty that those were the reasons of their reactions. But it's certainly not the most sympathetic portrait of the ruling class. Yeah, this is a really interesting watch. I don't really want to make any claims as to it being the greatest film of all time or not. I don't think I could really make a judgment like that upon a first watch. All I can say is I'm ready to watch this again. It's a really, really deep work. There's a lot of things mechanically and thematically that are happening in it that are overlapping, that it's too much to handle in one viewing, quite honestly. So yeah, I recommend you give it a look. I recommend you giving it a second look, and just like, if anything, if only just mechanically, if only just artistically, the long shot sequences, the depth of field, the going back and forth on that in that hallway, that was such a great shot. Going around the ballroom during the theater sequence, during the vaudeville sequence, it's just tremendous, amazing, absolutely unlike anything I'd seen before. And of course, the display of nature in the estate when they go on the hunt, just like an incredible tapestry of the French countryside. I want to read this excerpt. Filming for exterior scenes were set in Salone, outside of Chateau de la Ferté Saint-Aubin. Renoir said he chose Salone because his father, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, regretted that he had never been able to paint it. How well I understand the sincerity of those regrets before these beautiful landscapes of Salone, in astonishing colors of a grace so melancholy yet so gentle. Tremendous that it was captured on film. Yeah, this is a lot. Give it a watch. Give it a second watch. Let me know what you think. If you're a Renoir expert, I welcome your insight. And yeah, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. And until next time, keep watching good movies.